noise again. About the wind. I'll get under cover so you can hear me a little better. Just wanted to show you great altar healing and freedom. Jai Hanuman Ji! Hanuman's mountain. And looking east towards the North Shore Road, there's a little bit of a formation you see over there, like a blade formation that comes up like the back of a pterodactyl. And about a mile beyond that, maybe a little bit less, maybe a half mile, is the road. And there's a parking area on the other side of that formation. And that formation kind of blocks the view into the bowl. You know, it's kind of like hiding in plain sight. You know, as the crow flies, it's probably about 3 or 4 miles. You know, as far as hiking, maybe, you know, same thing, but add like elevation. It's about 2,500 feet up here. And the weather was iffy again. Not that I misjudged it, it's just it looked like it was going to be good, and I came out. And it got dark, and a front came over, and while I was down at the outer temple praying to Ganesha, praying for the remover of obstacles, praying to the remover of obstacles, it was really windy. You know, hang on to your hat kind of wind. And then I came up here, and it seems to have calmed down quite a bit, which, thank you. Thank you to the spirits of this place. It's a beautiful place. So yeah, you come around that formation, and then you can see kind of a wash that leads out to like a flat, almost, it looks like a road maybe in this, but it's actually a larger wash. And people with 4x come out to like the end of like that little wash, and then hike in. I park out on the road and then hike in. So I had like another half hour, 45 minutes of hiking across the flat. I don't mind. Don't want to beat up my mother's vehicle. So let's see if we can't get out of the wind. A place that I came the last time I was here. Sorry guys, give me a minute to get the camera in a place where it'll stay put. That looks pretty good. You can see me. Hope you can hear me. Wish you had a better view of the altar, but I think you can probably see Hanuman Ji! Hanuman's mountain. Of course I call it that. I don't even know if it has a name. But it's always going to be Hanuman's mountain to me. And I was thinking, I'll have to look and see. Sri Ramana Maharshi, you know, he lived on and around and at the base of a mountain, a sacred mountain, Arunchala, I think? Arunchala, something like that. And I think they look similar. I'll have to like look and see. I could be wrong. Always excited to get a new bottle of Agua de Florida, Florida water. I usually have a natural one back home that a medicine woman makes. But out here, I didn't bring any with me, so out here I bought the traditional and synthetic. You know, in a pinch it works. Beautiful offering, clearing, great energy to it. And then a nice new pouch of organic tobacco. I get excited, you know, the simple things, right? Because it's like, ooh, the potential, you know, the number of prayers that this will facilitate. You know, new pouch of tobacco, new braid of sweetgrass, you know, new bundle of cedar, you know, a new bundle of sage. Burning some sage over there on the altar. New bottle of Florida water. You know, just the potential, the prayers, those offerings, those sacraments. You know, and that scent, and that energy, that quality, you know, just takes you right back into, you know, ceremony. My grandmother, you know, particularly. The force medicine, yeah. These great tools for clearing and protection, healing. It's been a long time. Just learning how to feel into those, work with them. So, this may be the last talk for a while until I return. I am scheduled to head back to New York, to the East Coast, on Friday, this coming Friday. Today's Saturday, so almost a week from now. And yeah, you know, while I have like some sacred places, like in like Harriman State Park, and obviously the altar, you know, that I have in my home, the altars, several. It's not the same. It's not the same as coming up here. You know, doing the rituals. You know, the prayer stations. You know, to come up here and clean and clear and purify and set intention. And the power and the majesty of this place. And the lack of EMF age. So yeah, this is probably going to be the last one for a while. That's fine. That's good. Talk too much. A lot of people who know me is like, oh, you talk too much. So it's good to come up here and get quiet. But share what's happening with me. And it seems to be happening in the world. My intention today was to come up here and pray for a group of men, my brothers, medicine men. And you'll have to indulge me with that. So about 3 years ago, I helped start a group of men, medicine brothers. The commonality is we all worked with grandmother, with ayahuasca. With a teacher and with the same teacher, and we wanted to explore. I'm going to use my interpretation. The other brothers might have their own. But explore holding a container, in sacred space, in the medicine space, and trying to hold a container of the group, a collective container. And the way that I felt into it, and the way that I just describe it is, I couldn't. There were certain things within the variación, within the force of the medicine, that felt that I didn't have the capacity to work with yet, with, and what I felt, in certain instances, that I needed help, help. And obviously we can always call, for help, G, and have, that lifeline, and also the spirit of the medicine and many other helper spirits. Sorry about that, guys. I'm gonna have to figure something out. It's the first time I've had technical difficulties. Sorry. Probably a good sign, right? Good sign that I'm done with this stuff for a while. So again, my apologies. That's how that works. So where was I? Capacity. I felt that I needed additional capacity to work in the way that I felt called to work. And that capacity seemed to be something that I could access, with a group with the intention, a similar intention. So we embarked on that experiment about 3 years ago, and worked together in that capacity in one way or another, in the medicine space and outside of it. And I had weekly calls to touch base, in terms of our lives and the intersection of medicine and sadhana and meditation and spiritual practice and family and life, samsara. And with any group, there's always challenges, personalities, and but it, regardless of challenges or work or whatnot, the intention was there, and it's still there, because these are all beautiful men, and we all come at the work and from our own orientation, our own way of experiencing the world and the medicine, according to our orientation, our training, our knowledge, our experience, our upbringing, our karma, all these things. So, really good exercise in experiencing things through the eyes of others, and experiencing things in that way, in a more, in a particular container. So I've kind of backed away out of that group and that container over the last year. COVID had a lot to do with it, and it's unfortunate because it illustrates that I still have judgment, about things, and projection, and issues with regard to authority and forgiveness, and those kinds of things, and but more so there was a necessity for me, from like a energetic perspective, more so than anything else, of establishing a boundary around certain compartments of my my experience in my life and how I perceive things. And I've certainly backed away out of a lot of you want to call them social situations or group situations over the last year, and not out of a fear of contracting some kind of disease, more so about how what is happening in our world is being perceived, and how people interpret that, and how they then relate to other people, particularly if they don't have the same belief system. And so it's been really difficult. So I decided to step back to a great degree out of that group and out of many social situations. And luckily, coming out here, for me, it was a good way to step out. Come and take care of my mother, and my mother's has her health issues. She's 85, and she had emergency open heart surgery almost a couple of years ago now, and still has issues with regard to congestive heart failure, and so we're dealing with that, and her getting older and needing more and more help, and my brother and I, my brother Rob, and so yeah, I got off on a tangent there, so I'm sorry, but so the interpretation. Sorry, someone wants to come say hi. Hey, buddy. It's the agua de Florida, yeah. Oh, the tobacco, too. It's the Florida water. So yeah, I was able to come out here and step out of social situations and things like that. But hey, buddy. Yeah, the Florida water, right? Yeah, it's really. Here, come over here. You guys want to play with the Florida water? I want you to play with it over here. I'll give you some water too. Sorry. Interruptions today. So, I want to offer a prayer to my brothers. The original group, Jeremiah, Podleski, Shambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. His family and his tribe. Yaron Gal Kamel, his family and his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Jason DePhilippus, his family and his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Peter Sabbath, his family and his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Joshua Tossin, his family and his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Frank Marta, his family, his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Ryan Nelling, his family, his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Ryan Taylor, his family, his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Jordan Taylor. Did I get Ryan Taylor? I say Ryan Taylor and Jordan Taylor. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Juan Tucci, his family, his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Jeff Woolman, his family, his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Brian Scott, his family, his tribe. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Great teacher, Francois Lamage, it's new. Triambakami Jamahe, Sugandim Pustivaranam, Ordvarugami Bandanam, Ritur Mokshinamataram. Thank you. So I don't know what will happen with that group, my brothers. It might, as an experiment, it might have run its course. I don't know. And discernment has been developing discernment has been a very large part of my path, medicine path, spiritual path. And for many people it's healing. I don't separate those things because for me it's the same. But whether it was via yoga, and via the medicine path, particularly in the medicine path, I needed something that really forced me to see things from a different perspective. I mean, really forced me, meditation, force, really opens you up. And I needed that because prior, let's say the person that I was, 20 years ago, had a very naive and limited perspective. And the medicine path allowed that to be broken open. And so just developing that new perspective or perspectives, body, mind, emotion, energy, spirit, that perspective or those new perspectives dial up your ability to interpret, dial up your ability to discern. And we are living in a time where that discernment is critical because of the ubiquitous, pervasive propaganda that is being disseminated. And so discerning truth, discerning accuracy is extremely problematic if you just judge based upon your intellect and your ego and the information that's provided. More and more, and I talked about it the last time, you have to rely upon your intuition and the discernment muscle that was developed in your sadhana, spiritual practice and medicine practice. And for me, that's been the guiding principle, is looking at things from energy and multifactorial analysis and whatnot. I mean, obviously intellect and ego come into play, but to a great degree, it's an intuitive exercise these days to grok the truth. And the censorship is becoming more and more radical. I finally, I think, speaking to a friend, accepted or have developed an acceptance over the last several months that we live under a fascist regime. And many people will probably take issue with that. But these bees. They like that agua florida. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on, I got nothing for you. You want the tobacco too? Come on, let's go over here. So yeah, the discernment of truth is critical right now, and it's not easy when the powers that be are willy-nilly censoring. You know, I got kicked off LinkedIn, for sharing factual information and a link to facts or a link to information put out by the World Health Organization. So it's not necessarily that you're getting censored for false information all the time, or misinformation or disinformation. Again, these are interpretations of these things. But being censored for sharing uncomfortable truths. Wow, I'm really getting surrounded by bees, guys, so I'm gonna have to probably call it a day on this. That worked. Needed a little bit of clearing right here for some reason. So yeah, discernment. And for whatever reason, you know, if you're watching this and you still subscribe to anything in the mainstream media as being accurate, I would beg you to reconsider. I spoke with, and some of you might have heard the story, I spoke with a woman in New York months ago, I want to say last early summer, late spring, and she grew up in communist Poland. And she was talking about how we were talking about COVID and the news and the fear mongering and and whatever the information that was being shared, high degree of propaganda and fear mongering. And she said to me, and it stuck with me, so like the interesting thing is, like, when I was growing up in Poland, in communist Poland, everyone completely disregarded the mainstream media, categorically disregarded it, or their media, because it was state media, and you couldn't find anybody who believed it. It was kind of like a joke. Everyone knew better, and so they went about their lives under the communist regime, knowing full well that what was being shared in state media was either completely untrue or misinformation or disinformation or what have you, propaganda. And here in the States, in the West, we basically have state media. When six, media corporations control all the information that we receive. So basically at the top of those six corporations are six individuals that control it. Then it's problematic. So we're getting their version of the truth or their narratives, their preferred narratives. Whether it's promoting a particular narrative or promoting narratives that also omit information. Guilty by omission. So anyway, the discernment piece for me became critical, and it was put to a test, over this last year. It continues to be put to a test, and I have to be really careful to ground myself in my practices and in my conversations or my relationships, particularly with people that I trust with regard to their feedback and criticisms and those kinds of things. And dangerous times. So I'm going back to New York, which is going to be a completely different environment than here out in Nevada. I fear, and I'll have to remember that about the Agua de Florida, the bees, the desert bees. I poured some water over there for them, and it seems to me there's a bunch of them at the water, which is good. I'm glad I'm able to provide that. But boy, there's like almost a swarm now, and that could be dangerous. So. This talk seems really disjointed energetically. Sorry, the distractions and technical difficulties. And couldn't settle in. Apologies for that. So developing discernment. That seems to be the takeaway of this, the intention of this. So prayers for my mother. I feel good what I accomplished here these last couple of months. She's in a lot better shape than she was when I arrived, and got a lot of resources laid, aligned for her. I mean, we still have some appointments and some consultations with the cardiologist this week, and if those go well, then I'll go ahead and come back to the East Coast. If they don't go well and more tests are required, and consideration of another heart surgery, I might stay out a little bit longer. But everything feels like it's settling down, and I've done what I can. And so what I might do is come back to the East Coast for a little bit, and and if I have to come back out, even in a month, or 2 months or whatever, then I'll do that. Take it as it comes. The same thing with the COVID craziness, the Great Reset craziness. Take it as it comes. And, do not give up your power. Buying into propaganda is in a way of giving up your power. Not necessarily your power research and analysis, but like, you're trusting an authority to disseminate to you, information, and you're trusting them to not have an ulterior motive or an agenda. And the mainstream, media sources, and a lot of, you have to like really be careful. But the mainstream, particularly, is cannot be trusted anymore at all, categorically. So yeah, be careful. They are outright lying now. So on top of the censorship, they're outright lying, and then they're censoring people to challenge the lies. This has been going on for some time, but it is in the open. A lot of the what I talk about in terms of Wetico, it's in the open now, and if you're not seeing it, it's I don't know what to tell you. It must be some cognitive dissonance, denial, belief in the inherent good of these institutions and these people, when it's been proven time and time again that they do not deserve that trust. They are not inherently good. They are inherently out for themselves and inherently out to, to try and make a lot of money. So, okay. I think that's enough. I think I gotta escape the bees. Don't mind them so much, but it's interesting. Anyway, here, let's take a look at Hanuman G before we go. Great servant of Ram, great servant of Sita, great servant of Lakshman, Jai Hanumanji, forever and ever and ever and ever. Jai Hanumanji, Sita Ram.